Life proof with the credit.
Proof credit.
Okay.
And he can take care.
Yes, that's amazing.
This is Mr. Tyrone Lindsay.
Okay.
Jacksonville Florida. Yeah.
You all coming out of the locker room, I was like, damn, glad to see you in the newspaper, see what love it. Like this was the dual side of the ball athlete before, any of the Travis Hunter hype began. Like he was really that dude coming out of Jacksonville.
My father is from Africa. My mother is American. My father came to Africa in the mid-'80s, and my mom grew up just south of Jacksonville in a city called Green Cove Spring. In the late 80s, my mom met my father in Orlando. So I was born in Orlando, and for a majority of the time I was growing up, I was the oldest sibling in the house. And then my mom, despite my mom remarrying after she and my dad, a lot of people who are talented, it's a lot of people who will have more resources and things like that than you might have. But hard work and doing the right thing never will fail you. I had good football coaches in middle school and good football coaches in high school whose philosophy had always been, I think a bit of it is divine, and I think we can never forget the grace and mercy that God has over our life. I'd attribute a lot of it to those two things.
Like if you were to be able to talk to your 16 or 17-year-old self today, like what words of advice would you give yourself, or would you say just stick to the plan? So thank you all for joining us once again. I'm Alex Barrett with Life Proof Services, and I'm here today with another phenomenal gentleman, impactful leader. This guy has really resonated with me over the course of my life. For when I very, very first met him, it was like back in 2008, I believe. You were a senior going in 2008.
I started 2008, 2009 was my senior year, but I graduated 2009.
2009, okay. So I remember specifically was on the football field at Vanderbilt High. And I think you were there for the Shrine Bowl practice.
Yeah.
And you all coming out of the locker room, I was like, damn, glad to see you in the newspaper, see what love it. Like this was the dual side of the ball athlete before, any of the Travis Hunter hype began. Like he was really that dude coming out of Jacksonville. And I'm just glad to be here still with him today, almost 20-something years later. And this is, if you don't know, this is the gentleman Sam Barrington of South Florida, Green Bay Packers. He's, like I said, Terry Parker High School. So he's a community guy as well, which is why we're here as well today. So thank you for joining me, bro. Thank you for having me. Yes, sir. So just tell me a little bit about, you're coming up in Jacksonville. Are you originally from Jacksonville, or were you born in Africa, or?
So my father is from Africa. My mother is American. And my father came to Africa in the mid-'80s, and my mom grew up just south of Jacksonville in a city called Green Cove Spring. So that's Clay High. Yeah, just past Orange Park.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the late 80s, my mom met my father in Orlando. Mm-hmm. So I was born in Orlando, and I moved to Jacksonville around the time I was 4 years old.
Gotcha.
Okay, and grew up in Jacksonville from 4 to 18. So majority of the time I'm talking to people about the fact that I'm from Jacksonville. Yeah, because Jacksonville, I was just born in Orlando.
Yeah, okay. And so coming up in Jacksonville, and like you mentioned the Terry Parker High School, not coming from one of the, I guess, like power schools in Jacksonville, you kind of made it a power program.
Yeah.
So what would you say that like that upcoming of Sam Barrington was like for you to mold yourself into who you are today?
Yeah.
Like what would you say that was like for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, it's so many pockets of my life I can kind of talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that sticks out when you first asked me that question is the fact that for a majority of the time I was growing up, I was the oldest sibling in the house.
Gotcha.
And then my mom, despite my mom remarrying after she and my dad, my biological father, separated, I still had that experience of being the one who had to make sure everything was okay.
Right.
When my parents were at work, my mom and my stepfather. And then around the time I was 13, my mom and my stepfather separated. So from 13 to 18, I had the experience of, being a role model or a leader to my younger siblings, but then also being a helper to my mom.
Right.
So I started working when I was 13 years old, cutting grass, selling candy, working at a BP gas station illegally, cleaning up the bathrooms, and taking up
Child labor laws, the block, not these days, not like to hear that or care about that at all.
Yeah, man. From my 10th grade year up until the time I graduated high school, I always had 2 jobs. Gotcha. And like literally during football season, I would go to practice and work Monday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night. Sorry, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. I played a football game on Friday night. Got up, go to the bar shop, look at my stats in the newspaper, then go to work. And my daytime job on Saturday. Then I work my nighttime job on Saturday. Wow. Then I do the same thing on Sundays too. So since the time I was young, I understood the value of work ethic. And like, fortunately, I had good football coaches in middle school and good football coaches in high school whose philosophy had always been do the right thing and work hard. So that was my that was my baseline.
Gotcha.
And it's also part of my belief system today. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who are talented. It's a lot of people who will have more resources and things like that than you might have. Right. But hard work and doing the right thing never will fail you.
Right.
So I pretty much just made that a part of my, my formula.
Your recipe for success.
Yeah, my recipe for success. Yeah, and those 2 components have really never failed.
Gotcha. So what would you say, like if you were, and this is something I was going to ask at the end, but I can say right now is a decent transition. Like if you were to be able to talk to your 16 or 17-year-old self today, like what words of advice would you give yourself, or would you say just stick to the plan?
Stick to the plan wouldn't be a wrong answer because, I like where I am in life.
Right.
I'm not one of those guys who's married to this idea of like the hustle culture, even though it seems like I'm a highly productive person. I'm still like soft and realistic with myself. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like the type of guy, you don't grind, you don't eat. Like that's such a rigid thought process. Yeah.
You can really drive yourself like to the edge and then lose yourself.
Yeah, burnout. Those things like that.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in a hyper growth phase at the time. It was right when I got out of the NFL, and I knew that I had to like keep the foot to the gas for about 4 or 5 years, so that way I could cover some ground.
Yeah.
In terms of my understanding for business, my understanding for life outside of football and things like that.
Gotcha.
I also had a kid when I was 18 years old.
Oh wow.
I started college June 24, 2009, and my oldest daughter, who's now 16, she was born July 4th, 2009.
Wow.
And so when I say it would be a little bit more selfish, it has nothing to do with my daughter, but it's more about just taking your time and making it your time. And taking your resources and feeding yourself before you try to feed somebody else.
Absolutely.
I was in college and, I was always trying to go back and do things for friends and family, and I don't regret that.
Right.
But I think I'm an anomaly in terms of the ability to do that and still get to where you're going.
Right.
I think a lot of young people,
because you got it early too. You had that.
I had that responsibility early.
Yeah. So when you got into college, like how did you navigate being a freshman in Tampa, Florida, like ever prime of what Tampa was?
Yeah.
Then you got Docker. Yeah, you were a good. You were with a really good team at that time too.
Yeah.
Because my cousin, Chalk said clear with you as well.
Right.
So how did you manage and navigate like all of these different? Because this is like really before social media, so you all were really in the word.
I think Instagram popped on the scene like my junior senior year. Yeah, we was all using Facebook, a little bit of Twitter at the time. Yeah. So my junior and senior year, that's when Instagram popped on the scene. I think a bit of it is divine, and I think we can never forget the grace and mercy that God has over our life. I'd attribute a lot of it to those 2 things.
Right.
But my real physical lived experience, again, it was just hard work and just, trying to do the things that others wouldn't. But I did encounter my fair share of things, right? I went to jail 3 times while I was in college.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's all about Tampa lifestyle. Just like
it was outside Tampa lifestyle. It was driving with suspended license.
Oh, gotcha.
So the thing I tell my young self is just get your business in order. And I don't think you're ever too young to do that. I think when you're young, your business goes a specific way. Right. And then when you're older, obviously, more components get added to that. But when I was young, whether it's just being more organized or just, you get a ticket, you can't throw it on your desk, but you got to handle that. Yeah. So I was not paying my traffic citations, spending money on, spending money on my girlfriend and not doing the things that I should have been doing for myself. So it's a little bit, it was those things, right? And then I had my fair share of challenges with football as well. I remember, I think it was my junior year, probably for about first 5 or 6 games, I was like, I don't really love the game. You know what I mean? And I think that was just a pivot point for me, right?
So, because when you playing both ways in college, is no, or just no? I stopped playing right back when I was a freshman in college. Okay, gotcha.
And so, I think it really was something you have to grow to, right? And so I challenged myself to have a new desire for the game. And they moved me from a middle linebacker to outside linebacker, so it was a new experience. I wasn't as good at it but it was contributing to the greater good. That's where the team needed me, so yeah.
It's fun on the edge too. It's fun on the edge.
It is, but I wasn't a pass rusher. You know what I mean? Cover. I like to run and chase the ball, and so it was boring a little bit, but through time, I just kind of came back to me and started enjoying the game a bit more, and so I had my challenges, bro. It's just about resilience. Resilience is important, and just challenging yourself and not stopping just because the door closed. When I go, you know what I mean, right? See what's out nothing to do there. You know what I mean? Call somebody behind the door. Okay, it's ways to go through the door. And had I given up on the game at that point, there was no transfer portal. And don't get me wrong, I was still starting, right? But there was no transfer portal.
If you transfer back then, if I'm correct, you lost a year.
I never lost a year. I lost a year.
But no, for sure. So I know you do a lot of work these days with young athletes that are coming into the league, or okay. Well, is that work?
I think young men in general, I never pass up an opportunity to mentor a young man. Despite my father being a great man, despite me having stepfathers and great coaches, I think at times what I wanted to become, I hadn't seen done yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So when I looked around me, it wasn't that I didn't have applicable men in my life. It's just that I never really claimed a mentor outside of a coach. Because again, I appreciate this component about you. I could appreciate this component about you, but the whole picture I hadn't seen done yet. Right. So when I look at where I am, I try to pour into young guys because I understand there's a ton of components. You want to get money, you want to be respected, you feel drop it. You want to be able to go into certain rooms and be able to do what it is that you need to do for yourself or whatever. Right. But still, you don't want to lose the identity that you have as a black man. And I think sometimes people think that you can't rise and you can't be in certain places without losing your identity. They think you have to transform into something different and more palatable.
I forget what that word is, but I know exactly. Code switching. Yes, yeah. People go into the corporate world and corporate forces them to be this type of black man. But like, that's not your true identity.
Yeah, because truth be told, when you walk into a room and you're faking, those people can tell you're right. And so it's actually counterproductive. And it's more of a comfort mechanism for the person who's doing it. But it's just better to go into the world as your authentic self. Right. And how I talk to guys that I grew up with and how I talk when I'm in a board meeting, it's two different conversations. So it's not necessarily code switching. I think that's just being aware of your environment. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's dope that you're able to do that, and pour into young men that need that, because with social media, it's like all the different type of influences out there, like you give a young man can't get lost. Oh, for sure. Really, really lost in just like the world and social media and the girls and the NIL deals, and with you then, making the transition to the league, like it's still kind of keeping your authentic self here, like when you got into the league, like what was your situation like? Like, cause you got drafted by Green Bay,
Yeah,
and then you were at Green Bay for what, 12 years, 11?
I wish, but 4 years.
4 years. Okay, okay. So what was your NFL journey like?
Yeah, so I was drafted by Green Bay in the 7th round, and again, I went to jail a few times, so that definitely hurt my draft stock. And so, but I knew I was good enough to play,
Right.
and all I really cared about was an opportunity. And so when I got to Green Bay, I was backing up AJ Hawk. So I studied his game, and I said, okay, this is what the defense needs. This is where AJ is.
Right.
Let me figure out how to bring what he brings to the table, but also give the defense what it needs at the time.
Right.
And as you know, at the time, Green Bay was always respected for
Right.
what they did on offense.
Mm-hmm.
They had some defensive stars, but the defense was never respected.
Right.
And so I actually started out my rookie year playing special teams. I didn't get any opportunity to get in the game at the linebacker position.
Right.
And then week 9, Aaron Rodgers went down, one of our tight ends went down. And so I also pulled my hamstring. So they just put me on IR because they knew it was a serious hamstring injury.
Right.
And they also knew that they needed to bring in more players to supplement for Aaron Rodgers and to Mike Finley.
But yeah.
So with that being said, I spent the remaining few weeks of my first year on IR, and that was just time for me to sit back and reflect and watch and be a follower and understand how to get things done as a pro. So that all season, I always trained in Miami during the off season. I went in and I just train hard. I'm just a very physical guy.
Right.
And that was one of the things that AJ Polk wasn't bringing to the game at that time. So I think it was week 1 during my second year. We went out and we got busted up bad by Seattle. They were a more physical team than us. And so I played the remaining 3 weeks. Those next 3 weeks I played on special teams and then had a little hamstring tweak and I was sick for like 2 weeks. And I think it was like game 6 of the year. I came back and had to practice and well, so they decided they were going to put in base defense. Or I think we were playing, I can't remember if it was the Saints or and we lost that game, but I played really well at the point of attack and behind the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And then they kept allowing me to play in base defense, and then we get a little later in the season, and then we're paying the Dewey Patriots on Monday night. I think it was Garrett Blunt, it was like the second and fourth, and I met him in the hole, and it was just so physical.
Clash the Titans.
Yeah, clash the Titans and knocked them back, and Lambeau Field down on their feet. And truth be told, after that, I was able to gain the full-time starter spot at middle linebacker for an AJR at Iraq. And I was started for 2 years after that, experienced some injuries, and I ultimately was released from Green Bay after suffering an ankle injury. And I hadn't talked about this publicly, but I also was one of the first guys to support Kyle Kaepernick publicly.
Oh, wow.
And 6 days after I did that, the Green Bay Packers actually released me. And so I went on to spend some time in Kansas City and went on to spend some time in New Orleans, mostly in the special teams role. But truth be told, after that, and after I really conceptualized and understood what my dismissal from Green Bay was really surrounded around, my love for the game changed.
Right.
And so I started to think about what would be what life after football would look like. And then one day I just woke up and I was like, I'm ready to move on. So I spent 5 years in the NFL and made a conscious and intentional transition to life after football because I just decided that if me living my truth would cause me to lose an opportunity, then I need to be the one controlling my destiny.
Right.
So I can allow others to emphatically live in their truth and not necessarily be at a place where they can't get that better.
Right. Yeah, I don't know why I thought you played for so much longer. Maybe because your impact just like continued to live. Maybe once you weren't in the game, or I don't know what it was. But so what would you say? Because I know like for a lot of people, like getting out of the league or getting out of college ball is kind of tough for them. Yeah, so once you were able to step away from the game after those 5 years, like transitioning now into, who you work to become today, and what was that? yeah, that interaction like for your experience.
Yeah, everybody struggle a little different. You know what I mean? Some people, they're just lost without the game because they never really had an identity outside the game.
Right.
Some people are lost because of money. Some people are lost because of women. Some women are lost because, you know, whatever. Everybody has a different strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it's about identifying what your struggle dynamic is, figuring out how to build a system around that so you can chip it away day by day. And then also, again, you got to keep yourself busy, right? Not busy with meaningless things, but things that are meaningful and impactful, right? And I think that's what I did. I think I've always just had a sense of discernment where it hadn't always made the best decisions, but a sense of discerning. But the biggest component is finding out what your why is. A lot of people equate ball, they want to be the best. They want to go win a big championship. They want to be respected, etc. And for me, my why, once I started to really redevelop what my why was, right, I think that's when life outside of football really started to become very desirable.
Yes, that's definitely something big that, you know, a lot of you all must understand, you know, in becoming this next person once you step away from the leagues or your job or whatever it is you step away from, you have to go back and find that why, you know, of who you truly are, because if you don't, you can lose yourself. And that's another reason that I, you know, want that podcast and the channel, whatever, to be broadcasted on a large scale, because people have to find their life's purpose.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, you want to know that, you know, if things get tough, you have systems in place, right? You have bricks to stand on that could help you, you know, catapult to the next phase and stage of your life. So that's definitely big. And I know there was a point that I recognized you again, even a couple years after you stopped playing, I guess it was. I used to always read the Forbes newsletter online.
Yeah.
And I'm just flicking through it one more, and I'm like, damn, they talk about that. Sam Barrington in the Forbes now.
Yeah.
So like, damn, so now he's athlete turned businessman, you know, can still doing his thing in the community. So like stepping into that business phase, you know, with all of these things that you've like mentally been able to accomplish, yeah. What would you say, like I know you said your father is already doing business. So what made you want to go full force in the business here and there?
A lot of guys, they get out of the league and they want to find something to validate themselves. Right. But you also got to find a way to make money. So that served two purposes. And then as I really dived into the space, there's not a lot of minorities in this space from an ownership standpoint. Heavy sharing, where it's a very capital intensive.
And that's the company that you.
Yeah, so I live in Crane and Rigging. Gotcha. Yeah, and so we service construction industries. And so there's not a lot of, again, minorities in this space from an ownership standpoint, but even from a labor standpoint, right? You know what I mean? Seeing black crane operator is still like a little bit taboo to it, yeah, and you know what I mean? And it's not like crane operators are making millions of dollars, but they make a good salary. I mean, on average, you're gonna make at least, you know, $36 an hour, right? You know what I mean? And guys will work 40 to 60 hours a week. He you know, it's 2,500 a week net, and you know, that's $10,000 a month net. You know, so you're seeing $150,000, $160,000 a year.
Yeah.
And it's not very difficult to learn how to get done. So when you're running a business, when you're, you know, you have 10 employees who are, you know, seeing $3,000 gross a week, you know, the numbers add up.
Yeah.
So increasing representation in our industry was something that was important for me. Being that my family's already been in this industry, continuing that legacy was something that was important. Right. And then I started enjoying, right, when, you know, you get the opportunity to build something, whether it's, you know, all the buildings down in Water Street, whether it's the Tampa International Airport, Orlando International Airport, Jacksonville International Airport, or buildings at the University of South Florida, the football stadium that's coming at the University of South Florida.
And I can't wait for that, lucky for you, because that's going to take my property value up. So I love South Florida for Duke National Stadium.
Yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium. Yeah. So many things, now I get to drive by, I get to show my kids, like, look, we do that. Yeah. And then, again, it's a path to wealth. Because buying a crane ain't cheap. We just closed on a nice little purchase pack. It's 2 cranes, about 1.2 million. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing to do. But once it gets serious, it gets serious.
Right. Yeah, that's major, man. I thought that you were a part of products in South Florida. Just to hear you say that, that just confirms. I tell you, it was in the Science Center that you were a part of, the new building.
So it's 3. So it was the research part, it was the welding center, and then it was the Judy Jen Shop Farmers College part. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Well, all my friends that I've been telling, my homeboy helped develop that building. You've heard it here yourself. I was not capping. So
Yeah.
thank you. That's awesome. I gotta give you your flowers. Appreciate it too, man. Cause and you don't come across too many people that are able to just like make these life phases transitions the way that you did. And it just sounds like your parents and the people around you just did a phenomenal job by molding you and like just giving you everything you needed, and you being able to receive all of these things as well too. On the other end, like that's very honorable.
I appreciate that. Very honest, and when you go out and you do something special, and people around you, whether it be people for 20, 10, 15 years or whatever case may be, when you hear them say things like they're proud of you, that's when like that stuff is important. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because you saw something in me as a young person, so for you to see it full circle, it means a lot to me. I got to continue to do that. Yeah, you know what I mean? And life always has a way of working itself out. I think it's just about being calm, being still. Yeah, even when things get crazy, just take it out of the fun about it.
Yeah, stop. Absolutely. Yeah. So what do we say, like big projects upcoming? Like what do you have working? I think you mentioned thing about the airport in Jacksonville. I think I just read an article about that like 2 or 3 days ago that they were going to start developing the airport.
Yeah, so it's 2 major projects going on at the airport right now. They're doing a terminal expansion, and they're going parking garage. In addition to that, the Jacksonville
That's the one that just caught on fire a couple months ago.
Well, the thing is, it was a car that caught on fire. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but concrete don't burn.
Yeah.
So then we got Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium coming up. We're starting USF football stadium here in about a week.
Oh, nice.
So that's a big one for us. We've been out at Universal and Disney for over 3 years. We've been out at the Orlando International Airport for over 2 years now. It gets to a point where I start to forget.
Yeah.
Because I'm running a company, and there's, sales component is important. Right. If you have acquisition, you have HR, you have finance, you have marketing, you have some of the components that you also have to, work through and you get done. So,
Right. So do you like one day see yourself like building one of your own buildings in these major city complexes, or is that something that you have as a goal back in Africa?
Yeah, I mean both, right? But I think it's also to just realize where you are in the process. And while I can, I'm involved in some, real estate code projects now, as an investor. But I think you have to go step by step, right? And you gotta build this and get this secure and get this, running like a machine. Then you can move to your next venture, and this venture funds out, and then these 2 ventures fund these next 2. Right, so that's where I am. You know what I mean?
So it also sounds like you understand leverage really well as well too.
Yeah.
So I want you to just expound on leverage a little bit, because with me, I do credit.
Sure.
And I help people get funding, on a smaller scale, $100,000 companies. I try to company scale to 500 to $1 million companies via the funding that I offer them. So what you do in leveraging the head of machinery and equipment, like what did you have to learn to understand about like the credit side, and like we mentioned in equity as well too?
Yeah.
Like what did you have to understand before you can get those processes done?
Well, like many people, I mean, it's not like I grew up where somebody was giving me the credit playbook.
Right.
And so it takes some time before you understand how credit works, whether it's utilization, whether it's utilization is obviously a big one. age of credit lines is also a big one. Delinquency. Those are pretty much the largest three factors, right? Of credit. And so the thing is you have your personal credit and you have your business credit, right? Your personal credit is a little bit easier to manage, right? Business credit, it's there's more components that determine whether a company is gonna give you, capital, right? Or credit line. And the thing that I like about business credit is even though your business credit, whether it's through Sun and Bradstreet, is not high or whatever the case may be, right? There's so many lenders out there who believe in small businesses that you can come to them and you can make sure you tell them the story, right? And as long as the story checks out, it's logical, then they'll open you with a base financing package, right? The other thing is also making sure you have your books in order, making sure your balance sheet is clean, right? Making sure it's strong, and you can use your balance sheet along with a narrative about who you are, a business plan, what you're set to do.
That's how it goes. Stamp that.
Yeah, the stamp it. Exactly. So I learned those things. You have to find a way to manage cash flow. You have to find a way to understand trends. You have to find ways to float projects or float capital, or just get creative so you could keep the business open at times where it's in on the place. Right. But there's so many tools out here that will allow you to get the things that you need for your business. You know what I mean? Whether it's grants, whether there's, entities that are, there's advocates to help your business roll with different type of resources. So it's all about research and education to find out what's out there and available for you.
Yeah. Have to be able to leverage your networks to, create this net worth, about yourself. So,
and that's one of the things I'll say, like, ever since I was in college, like I did focus on like relationship building, and I have a very broad network. Yeah. That ranges from sports, real estate, finance, entertainment, construction. Like I can pretty much reach into my network and find anything that you would need for anything. You know what I mean? And so once you have that, now it starts to grow because now you can be a matchmaker. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, Sam, man, I'm looking for a guy who does this. Let me think. Now I connect you with this person. Check back with you at 3 weeks. How that way? Man, you help. Now you building social equity. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're building social wealth. Yeah. Which is something that you can put a value on, right? So,
yeah, that's a match right there. But yeah, definitely, I could keep going, but I know we got a lot of things to get done today. But I definitely appreciate you, man. So this is kind of on a whim, and we're here at Micah ML Fitness here in Tampa, in Temple Terrace area. He's also a USF guru too, so we appreciate it. Shout out to him for allowing us to use the studio. Thank you again for, of course, man. We definitely started doing round two, because I caught a couple of your lives this past week too. You're working on doing something in September.
Yeah. So another one of the companies I started is a travel and leisure brand, and so we host retreats primarily in Africa. It's called Black and Brown Vibes, and although it's called Black and Brown Vibes, we're a company and we're a brand that welcomes and celebrates everyone. But we won't be shy about the need for focus on the Black and brown experience. Yeah, especially in light of things like DEI being canceled, woke being broke, and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And so we have a retreat coming up September 20th. We're marketing this retreat to people who want to focus on their mind, body, and soul from a wellness standpoint, and we're offering a very, cultural immersion type of experience in Ghana on September 20th. And then for in December, we had Identity December, our retreat coming up in Ghana, which is in December. It's December 26th. So
that's like the holiday. That's the holiday we have. My God, for every year you told me about that.
Yeah, if you haven't been in Ghana in December, you sleep. Yeah. That's just a reality of it. So
yeah. But definitely look forward to that, man. And then you have also in September, I think it's the 19th, a ball that you're doing here.
Yeah. So a few events this fall. I still commentate college football too.
So now you're in peak season.
Yeah, it's peak season. So September 19th, we're had a benefit dinner for Terry Parker High School, the athletics program. That's open to the public. And Dudley, she was she's also a 2009 alum. She was just inducted into the Middle Tennessee Hall of Fame for high jump.
Nice.
And then so that's September 11th. And then September 19th, the USF Black Alumni Association, we had the USF Black Alumni Association weekend, and I'm hosting the 9th All Black Party. And that's going to be Friday night. So also get over to the public, or we're raising money for the USF Black Alumni Association. But it's not always about the money. Yeah, you know, sometimes you just do things to support people. I tell you, what you're doing is important, and I'm hoping that people subscribe to it, take heed to it, and I look forward to seeing who else you have on the channel as far as guests in the future.
It's big. It's about to get big, because we started with the big. Appreciate you, man. That's what's up. Sure, bro. Thank you.